taking my son, see where I came up at, where I grew up at. Oh, I grew up at, oh yeah. See, pastors back in the day, everybody looked out for each other. So my mom would leave and go to work. I still had to make it to school in the morning. But everybody looked out for each other. So the middle of that cut right there, that's where I learned to play football.
Right.
You go through there, hey, there's still a laundromat right in the middle?
Yeah.
The laundromat right in the middle. So that's where we used to go wash the clothes and everything. Because ain't nobody had to wash and dry. But I learned how to play football with a milk jug right in the middle of that grass right there. We used to go at. And we looked out for each other. I don't know if we can still do that today. But this is what I grew up at.
Deion Sanders just took Shedeur back to the neighborhood where it all started, where a young Deion first learned the game using a milk jug as a football. The life lesson he shared in that graveyard, the same place where he built his speed, tells you everything about why Shedeur has the mental toughness so many critics claimed he didn't have. Before we get into Deion's thoughts on suspended hope and that moment when a nervous resident spotted him outside his old condemned apartment, you need to understand something. This wasn't just a trip down memory lane. This was Deion showing Shedeur that the confidence people confuse for arrogance was born from a father who refused to let poverty define him. When Shilo had to step in and explain to a stranger who he was looking at, it became obvious. Deion Primetime Sanders raised his sons to truly understand the sacrifices he made to give them opportunities he never had.
Dang! Man, that had to be $1 million. I'm not even gonna lie, bro. That's not Halloween, my boy. No Halloween. That's not what they got. This is the first round change.
What? You don't know how to do it. I'll show them how to do it.
Deion brought Shedeur and Shilo back to Fort Myers, Florida. Not the polished areas, not the beaches, the actual projects where he grew up. The worn-down apartment buildings, the graveyards, the open patches of grass where kids played kill the carrier with a milk jug because nobody owned a real football.
But I learned how to play football with a milk jug right in the middle of that grass right there. We used to go at. But we looked out for each other. I don't know if we can still do that today.
The entire visit carried one clear message. If you don't know where you came from, you'll never fully understand where you're going. Their first stop was the original apartment complex, Building 7C. The way Deion described life there makes the difference between his childhood and his son's upbringing hit hard. He told them straight up, even with my mom not going to work, I still had to find a way to get to school. Everyone had each other's backs. That's what community is all about. That's making it through by having each other's backs. That right there is the foundation that built Deion Sanders into primetime, long before the money, long before the spotlight. Then Deion pointed toward a specific spot on the grass. That cut right there, man, that's where I picked up the game of football. Let that sink in. One of the greatest players in NFL history sharpened his skills on a dirt patch between apartment buildings. No youth leagues, no elite camps, no personal trainers, just kids, a milk jug, and imagination.
Through the middle of that cut right there, that's where I learned to play football.
He told his sons, we used to play right in the middle of that grass with a milk jug because no one had a washer and dryer. We hit up the laundromat, but I ended up picking up some football skills right on the spot. Shedeur stood there, taking it in. You could see him processing it because his childhood looked nothing like that. He had access to top facilities, real equipment, structured coaching, everything Deion never had. And that was exactly the point. The journey, the sacrifices, the leap from a milk jug to the NFL. That's the road Shedeur gets to walk now. But this is where it really hit deeper. Deion wasn't just talking about being broke. He was showing his son what that struggle actually produces. Creativity, toughness, the drive to chase greatness when you're starting with nothing. Then they moved to the second location, and everything shifted. The house at 1625 Lane, condemned about a month earlier, sitting between two graveyards, one on each side of the road. Deion stood there with his boys and explained where his legendary speed really came from.
And this is the story about how I got my speed. Graveyard. See, coming from down there, it's graveyard on the east side of the road. Graveyard right here. Going into that graveyard. We ain't had no street light. So you know all the story about graveyard. So we used to catch a car light coming down the road and we used to sprint full speed. Coming all the way down here, I mean wide open. And you was going into a graveyard But we used to play ball over here. Wasn't that many graves over here. We used to play ball over here.
Shedeur and Shilo nodded. Everybody knows those stories. The fear, the shadows, the way a graveyard at night feels alive. Deion broke it down. We used to bolt down here at full speed, wide open, because we were heading straight into a graveyard. That's where Deion Sanders' speed was built. Not in a lab, not through a program. It came from running through graveyards at night fueled by fear and necessity. Fear sharpened his burst. Survival strengthened his mentality. Poverty forged the work ethic that later became prime time. Shedeur listened to every word. He was realizing that the swagger his father carries, the same swagger that put him in the Hall of Fame, started with a kid sprinting past headstones just to get home. That's not arrogance, that's survival turned into dominance. Then something happened that brought public perception into focus. A resident stepped outside, clearly nervous, struggling to speak. Shilo stepped in. You do realize that's Deion prime time, right? Are you following me? The man admitted he was rattled. He didn't know what to say. He was standing face to face with a living legend outside his own front door.
You know who said something to him? Shilo. Shilo said, you know that's Deion prime time. You do understand? He was like, yeah. He said, I don't know what to say. That's why I'm talking crazy. I'm nervous, you know. Okay. It was a youngster at the battle park. Oh, tripping. Yeah, he was like, I want to throw a bomb. I want to show that. And so Shilo was Deion prime time.
Deion's pastor, filming the moment, said something powerful. This demonstrates that even in the bleakest circumstances, hope still exists. He's been suspended. Every time you switch it back on, the same thing happens again. Think about that. That resident wasn't just starstruck. He was looking at living proof that someone from the exact same place had made it out and achieved what most people thought was impossible for a kid from the Fort Myers projects. Hope had been dimmed. In that moment, it switched back on. That's representation. Deion bringing his sons back means more than people realize, because now the kids in those apartments have Shedeur Sanders to look at. Yes, a kid who grew up with resources, but also a kid whose father started from nothing. A quarterback whose confidence is rooted in generational struggle. And maybe some kid watching from those same buildings will see Shedeur's success in Cleveland and think, if Coach Prime's son can do this, coming from milk jugs and graveyards, then maybe I can too. That's bigger than football. Now let's tie this back to Shedeur's NFL journey.
The media spent months questioning his confidence during draft coverage. They called him arrogant, said he lacked humility, wondered if a kid raised with advantages could handle the grind of the NFL. But standing in those graveyards, hearing his father describe sprinting through darkness driven by fear, Shedeur gained perspective the media never stopped to consider. His confidence isn't entitlement, it's inherited belief. Deion Sanders grew up hearing that kids from his neighborhood don't make it. His answer was becoming one of the greatest ever. That's the blueprint Shedeur grew up on. It's bigger than talent, bigger than resources. It's a mindset that says outside noise doesn't dictate inside belief. When Cleveland media questions whether Shedeur can handle the pressure of being a franchise quarterback, here's your answer. This kid understands pressure differently. He walked the graveyards where his father built greatness. That doesn't soften you, it strengthens you. Deion also dropped something that explains how he teaches. How often does a person truly get the chance to showcase their full potential? I often find that I can't fully express what I have to offer, as it's on a different level that others just don't seem to grasp. You need to simplify it. That's Deion acknowledging he operates at a rare level. But when he's around someone who truly wants it, someone hungry and driven, it brings more out of him. Shedeur is that someone, curious, competitive, always pushing himself. Deion can pour into him in ways he simply can't with everyone else. Shedeur understands. He's seen the graves. He knows the milk jug story. He understands the sacrifice, and that translates to football. When you know your father built speed in darkness, you learn to run toward hard moments, not away from them. The mango story might say it best. Deion told them how they used to search the graveyard for mangoes. In the neighborhood, mangoes never seemed to ripen. They're set to take them down sooner than expected. Kids would search for mangoes in the graveyard just to find something to eat. That's raw resourcefulness. That's survival, the opposite of entitlement. Shedeur watched his father climb a tree and knock down mangoes, just like he did as a kid.
not because he needed to now, but to show them how it was done. The skills poverty forces on you never leave. They shape you forever. Shedeur carried that lesson with him. Struggle builds ability. Hardship forms identity. Comfort can dull greatness. And he needed that before stepping into his second NFL season. Year 2 is different. The rookie grace period is over. Year 2 is about proving you belong. Shedeur just learned what belonging truly means. It's not about fitting in. It's about refusing to fold. It's sprinting through fear because getting home matters more than being scared. That mindset will carry him through whatever Cleveland throws at him in 2026. The offensive line might struggle. The media might keep pressing. The spotlight might get hotter. But none of that compares to graveyards and milk jugs. None of it compares to what Deion fought through to build the life that gave Shedeur this opportunity. Deion made sure his son felt all of it, walked the same ground, touched the same buildings, felt the same energy that turned a kid from the projects into prime time. This wasn't a vacation, it was a masterclass. Deion Sanders made sure his son will always know where this family started, will always value what he has, and will never mistake privilege for weakness. Privilege becomes weakness only when you forget the sacrifice behind it. But when you've walked through the graveyards where your father found himself, when you've seen the milk jug that became a football, when you've stood in the apartments that shaped his mindset, privilege becomes responsibility. Shedeur Sanders is ready to leave his mark in Cleveland, not out of pressure, but out of deep understanding. He knows what it costs to give him this shot. That's what makes the Sanders family different. The confidence critics question, it's not ego, it's generational awareness. Shedeur walks into every room, even as a fifth-round pick, with his head high because he knows what could have been. He knows what nothing looks like, and he refuses to waste what his father built. The graveyard sprints, the milk jug football, hunting mangoes in a cemetery, these aren't just stories. They're lessons in resilience, creativity, and breaking through every ceiling poverty tries to place over you. For Shedeur, this visit was a reminder that the privilege critics bring up came at a price. It was paid in hunger, in fear, in long nights, by a father who looked at every obstacle and decided it wouldn't win. Now Shedeur carries that legacy forward, not by recreating the struggle, but by honoring it every snap he takes, by remembering that everything he has exists because his father never stopped running, even in the dark. That's what this hood visit was really about. Not nostalgia, not just emotion, responsibility, vision, and a son who now fully understands what it took to get here.